show round 3. Yes, I'll be going through all the games, giving you an update as to what went on. We'll also have a look at how that's altered the standings in the tables for both the Premiership and the Championship. And then we'll have a look at round 4 as well. Might also throw in some interesting bits of news as we go along. So the weekend kicked off with Hawke's Bay versus Otago. Actually, before we get to that, sorry that this one is late. And also it's a solo show. Normally I would have a guest with me, but this evening, but because of various things that got in the way, the show is a couple of days late. And sorry, yeah, it's just me, myself, and I this time. So kicking us off, we had Hawke's Bay versus Otago. That finished 29-21. I had Hawke's Bay by 10. So let's be honest, pretty much what we were expecting, I guess, from the scoreline. The first 10 minutes was all Magpies, but they were just 18 phases, went over, dropped the ball over the line, etc. Eventually a line-out maul, and they got themselves 7-0 up. Otago came straight back, actually, which was really kind of what they needed, let's be honest, after being under the cosh like that. With a great Purdy break, Henry Purdy, ex-Gloucester rugby player from the Gallagher Gallagher Premiership, going to go play for Coventry after this in the Championship up there in the UK, or in England, sorry. But a knock-on meant there was a disallowed try, but then again, from that the 5-metre scrum, they managed to go over and even things up. From there, Hawke's Bay really dominated the rest of the first half and led 17-7 with the line-out maul working. And you've got to say, at that point, you're thinking, yeah, this is all over. This is Hawke's Bay. 2 more line-out mauls and a player off with a player off the back of them quite often, which tries for Otago, and it all looked to be looked to have the game in the bag. But Otago dominated the second half and failed to score enough points or score points until the 7 minutes, and 2 tries made for an exciting finish at 29-21. Sorry, line-out mauls from the Hawke's Bay were what looked like it was all over, and then Otago came back in that last kind of 10 minutes or so, and I say it got close, but not quite. They didn't get quite close enough. So 29-21 in the end. Otago, a team that's sort of it seems that the Ranfurly Shield has meant that they're concentrating on their home form rather than away form, either subconsciously or consciously. Yeah, this weekend they've got Manawatu coming up, but after that, I think it's Taranaki, and that's going to be kind of difficult for them. Absolute cracking game the following night. Wellington 23, Canterbury 22. And I'm looking, and I've not got any notes in here at all about, so I'm going to do this one from memory entirely. But basically, what happened here was Wellington got themselves out into a lead, and Canterbury came back, but couldn't quite close the gap quite enough. I had Canterbury by 3. I thought they would have enough to see off Wellington, but no. Congratulations to Wellington. They really managed to get an important win there and make it 3 losses on the trot for Canterbury, and that's got to be one of their worst starts in living memory, or maybe even their worst start ever. Because I think it was 96 was the last time that they actually lost 2 on the trot, their opening 2 games. So now they've lost 3. This weekend they should rectify that, but we'll get on to that all later. Tasman 102. Well, let's be honest. This was all Tasman, wasn't it? 64-3 was the final score. Tasman absolutely thrashed Manawatu. Again, we've got a crossover game here between a Premiership team and a Championship team. The best team in the Premiership probably, they've won all the games so far at home. I mean, everything was stacked against Manawatu. They had Hemapo back from the All Blacks, but they were told that he had to come off at half time. That's not been made official, but he came off at half time, and there's no other reason why he would do if they hadn't been told that. And one of the things I do know is that when the All Blacks release back to the provinces, they are told how long they can play for. You'll notice in some of the other games. So Luke Jacobson, for example, came off at 59 minutes. My guess, they were said he could play for an hour. Hemapo was told he could play for half a game, and that's when he came off. In the second half, Man 2 stopped kicking the ball away, but they still couldn't break down the Tasman defence, and basically got caught on the counter-attack, and then also the scrum. Get a penalty off the scrum, go to the line-out, maul, and try. That Tasman pack is really kind of strong. So yes, hard day at the office for Man 2, as we kind of expected. But let's be honest, they are probably the second weakest team in the competition. Another crossover between the Premiership and the Championship saw Auckland take on Bay of Plenty. I had Auckland by 5, and they ended up winning it by 6, 19-13. But you've got to say, great start by Bay of Plenty, as the forwards bashed over after a Tia break. And Tia is one of their key players, let's be honest. But you've got to say that Auckland perhaps got a little bit... we're a bit silly in this game, of course, because the Auckland offloading in their own scrum in goal area. Seriously, just hold on to it, put it down, and go for and give up the 5 metre scrum rather than. Actually, they didn't go to go 5 metre scrum. Bay of Plenty failed to get points out of that. Even though they have the strongest scrum. Rico Wani got an intercept after that and suddenly went out to 19-7. You're thinking, hey, that's all over. But some worrying signs for Auckland. That was on 26 minutes. They didn't score again in the rest of the game. So nearly an hour's worth of, or 50 minutes worth of play, more than 50 minutes worth of play. And they didn't manage to score. Bay of Plenty were getting breaks, but they were dropping the ball. Tia got a yellow card. Quite rightly, when he took out Clark in the air. And Bay of Plenty dominated the second half, but their line-out really did fall to pieces, which killed their opportunities. They got it close at 19-13, but not close enough, and Auckland managed to get out of jail with that one, probably. Then Counties versus Waikato. I was at this one. This one finished 26-31 to Waikato, so Waikato got the win. I was going for Counties here, but no, well done, Waikato on this one. And basically, this was one where Waikato got out to the lead and then tied towards the end, and Counties came back into it. And to be fair, that Waikato, they opened scoring on 7 minutes, but off a turnover against a run of play. But they can strike like that, and they really did. To be fair, Counties evened things up, but then 2 more tries before half time, and it was 7-21 at half time. They added another one straight after the half with Hamilton Berg getting his second try in his debut season, so second try in 3 games. He'll be really happy with how he's going to make it to, and it went out to 7-31. You're thinking, on the hour mark, it's done and dusted. It's a nice, comfortable win for Waikato. Congratulations, well done. But they really tied towards the end and allowed 3 tries in the space of about 15 minutes. And suddenly, Waikato are kind of it's getting close. They managed to see it out in the last few minutes. With the line-out maul try was on 77 minutes. They managed to see out the last 3 minutes of the game. But you've got to say, Counties really did come back into this one. And Waikato will be looking at at how they finish that last 20 minutes. Had a chat with the coach. Quite often when you talk to coaches after the game and that kind of thing happens, they talk about how they lost their shape when they bring players on. I suggested that might have been the case, and he was like, nah, some of my players just looked really fatigued and were really, really tired. So interesting that that they've got that sort of problem. Now, they had a couple of players coming back for the first time. So the number 4, I've gone blank. I interviewed him as well. So they had a couple of players coming back from injuries. The first game's back, so perhaps that was part of it as well. You can go to check out those interviews. They're obviously on the channel. Also talked to one of the Counties players who plays in Major League Rugby. So if you want to have a view of or have listened to what it's like over there, then have a chat with. Then check out that interview. As I say, it's on the channel. I had a chat with him. He plays for Seattle Saracens, who have won a couple of championships over there. After that, we had Taranaki versus Northland. I had Taranaki by 7. I thought Northland would struggle to go down there. Ended up being a much larger victory for Taranaki. 52-19. Really great start by Taranaki in the championship as they look to bounce back after getting relegated last year. And really, this was a massive lesson in how to play with the wind. Northland just did not play with the wind well in the first half. They held on to the ball a lot, which can be a good thing. But if you've got the wind at your back, why not just force the opposition to play out of their 22 the whole time? They didn't do that, whereas Taranaki did that in the second half to them. Really showed them how to play some proper, windy rugby. Good play by Triple T. Unfortunately for Taranaki, they lost Kimi Naholo, so the younger of the two Naholo brothers. The two who were playing in this game, we had Waisaki Naholo on the other side, who lost him to injury early on, which is a real shame. So hopefully, I mean, last season we saw him in a moon boot in pre-season, so really bad luck for him to be going early in the season again. So hopefully he that wasn't too bad. There were a couple of late tries, and this was 45-7 at the 62-minute mark. So I mean, Northland really were not in this game at all. And it starting to look like a bit of a long season for Northland after we had them down as potentially being playoff contenders. Final game was Southland versus North Harbour. I had North Harbour by 10. That's perhaps a bit generous. It ended up being 12-33, so a 21 point win for North Harbour in that game. And yeah, there were a bunch of changes for Harbour after that loss that they made to the previous weekend. A few changes in there. Also, Southland losing Martin McKenzie really was a big blow for them. And Southland were really tenacious in that first half. They held it to 7-7, to be fair to them. But it was due to them being tenacious, not because they were dominating play at all. They're really good defence in there. And we know, Southland, you expect to get some scores because they can counter-attack. They have got some good ball players, but you expect them to also ship points. And unfortunately, that's really what happened in the second half, is that Harbour got a couple of tries, took control of the game, as Southland just didn't get their matchups, didn't get their alignment right on defence, which led those tries. Southland also losing a player that had been, and you think, well, this is where it's all going to happen, but no, Harbour totally lost their composure at that point and allowed Southland to score and to actually come back into the game. And you're thinking it's totally against what should have happened. North Harbour at that point should have just closed things out. But they didn't. They won it from there, so no big loss or no big deal. So how does that see things then? That means that in the Premiership we've got Tasman, who are top of the table on 14 with 3 wins. Close behind them, Auckland are with 2 wins and a draw, are on 12 points. Waikato, perhaps a bit of a surprise here, up in third on 10 points, really going well so far, making this season. Interesting enough, they've won their 2 games in the Premiership against Premiership opposition. The game they've lost was against the crossover Championship one. So a bit of surprise there. North Harbour up in fourth with that on 9 points, win, draw and a loss. Counties Manukau sit behind, also on 9 points. Then you have Wellington on 7 and Canterbury with those 3 losses on just 3 points. One of the things that today we had the announcement of the All Black squad, and one of the things that Hansen mentioned out of that was players that weren't included in the All Black squad. There isn't a set injury list. It's players playing in Mitre 10 Cup. So if players such as Owen Franks, Jackson Hemapo, Liam Squire, for example, who are all going overseas after the World Cup, if they don't make themselves available for the Mitre 10 Cup, they're not going to be available to get called up into that Rugby World Cup squad. So expect them to come back in. Expect Canterbury to get some Owen Franks back in. That'll help strengthen their scrum, obviously, and give them more depth as well. Scarily enough for Tasman, they're going to have Braden Ennor is back for them as well. I think he's with Tasman, isn't he? Not with Canterbury. Looking down into the Championship, Taranaki, 3 wins, no losses on 14 points. Hawke's Bay, 3 wins and a draw on 13 points, just 1 point behind. And then you've got Bay of Plenty on 2 wins and a loss on 11 points. Those 3 are the 3 that are going to find it out for the Championship. You've got to say they'll all be in the playoffs. Otago currently in 4th on 5 points. They're already 6 points behind Bay of Plenty. Northland on 4 points. Manawatu on just the 1 point, and Southland, the only team with no points so far, on 0. Heading into it this weekend, what have we got? You can check out my longer form predictions or written predictions at DrivingMaul.com if you want to, but I'll just quickly run through them. Wellington versus Counties Manukau. Obviously Wellington, not obviously, but Wellington will have Fafita back, you'd expect, as he hasn't got included in that All Blacks thing. Still, I'm backing Counties by 3 on this one. I think their scrum really could do a job against Wellington. That's one of their strengths. Obviously, Wellington's weakness, and it's a bad matchup, I think, for Wellington. Otago versus Manawatu. This is around Ranfurly Shield defence. Manawatu, we've already said, 3 losses, just that 1 bonus point. Shipped have a minus 82 points difference. Why? Because they've only scored 26 points. They're the lowest scoring team in the competition by far. They just can't score points. So, yep, expect Otago to win that one. Canterbury versus Southland. Well, hey, the 2 teams who haven't, or two of the 3 teams who haven't won a game yet this season. Canterbury by 15. Come on, Southland. They do score some points, but they just ship points too. So yes, expect an easy win for Canterbury there to get their season kick-started at last. Northland host Hawke's Bay. I would have backed Northland pre-season, but they really have disappointed. They've not delivered what I thought they could do. And again, they're another one of these sides that just ship points. They've shipped 112 points, which is the most out of any team in the competition. So expect Hawke's Bay are not the most extravagant scoring team, but they don't let in very many either, and expect Hawke's Bay to get the win there by 5. They're very much a pack-orientated line-out maul team in the difference there. Waikato versus Auckland. That's going to be here in Hamilton at the FMG Stadium. I will be at the game. Perhaps I'm getting a little bit carried away with how Waikato have been going, but I'm backing Waikato by 5 in this one. So yes, that's my call. I thought they would have Luke Jacobson back, but they're not going to, because he is in the All Black squad. Congratulations to him. If you want to have a look at that, I've done a video over on the All Blacks edition listing out the squad, and then also at 8 p.m. tonight, so in just over an hour's time, we'll have an hour-long show talking about the All Black squad. So yes, I've gone Waikato by 5. Maybe I'm a bit because maybe it's because I'm living in the Waikato and kind of that emotional attachment. But let's see how that one pans out. North Harbour versus Bay of Plenty. Bay of Plenty, I say, going really well in the Championship, but I think they're going to. This is a crossover game against a Premiership team. North Harbour had a decent enough start this season. Now, Bay of Plenty score plenty of points. So they score the most points in the Championship. So can North Harbour's defence cope with that? We'll wait and see. I'm backing North Harbour by 3. I think that crossover could be a step too far for Bay of Plenty. Finally, Taranaki versus Tasman. The 2 teams with 3 wins. The top of the Championship versus top of goes and hosts top of the Premiership. I'm sorry, Taranaki, but this is where the winning run comes to an end. Tasman by 10. Back to normal next week, Monday, 8 p.m. for the Mitre 10 Cup show. Do join us for that. If you'd like to support the channel, then become a supporter of the channel and head to patreon.com/DrivingMaul. There's a link down below in the notes, and get exclusive content to my opinion pieces and other videos, special videos in there. For example, my interview with a couple of the radio commentators, how they got into commentary, my interviews with some Pro 14 referees who came over to referee in the Mitre 10 Cup. Those are available exclusively for Patreon, for my supporters, through that, as well as, say, opinion pieces that are exclusively available to them as well. So please do go there. It's entirely up to you as to how much you donate per month. So thank you very much, and catch you all later on the All Blacks edition.